I want you to evaluate. Look at the position and just tell me who you think is better and how much. Slightly better, big advantage, perhaps winning. So white to play, and you need to convert this endgame. Okay, convert into a win. Let's try to see what are the pluses, what are the minuses in this position for both sides.
Plus for white, I guess, is that the bishop's on dark and the king's on white. I don't know.
Well, that could change, because if you move your king, that could change. Something else. Look at something else. There is something else in this position that immediately, if you look, what do we see here? Immediately, when we look at the pawns, what do we see?
Black's pawns are double.
Aha.
White has to connect with pawns.
Double pawns. Double pawns is one thing, but there is something else that I would like you to mention here, that black has that white doesn't have. Double pawns, but what else?
Black has the bishop and pawns on both sides of the board.
Yes, yes, that's a plus for black actually, because the bishop is stronger when there are pawns on both sides of the board. Very important detail. Bishop is usually stronger than the knight when there are pawns on both sides of the board. But there is something else here. It's nothing to do with the pieces here. It's just another detail that if you look, besides the weak pawns, what else black has here?
The pawn on G5 and C5, they're on dark squares, and his bishop is on dark squares, so he has less mobility.
He has less mobility, but still, I'm still looking for that one more detail here. In the endgame, you always count this, yeah?
Oh, I'm sorry. Black doesn't really have any moves. Many moves. Is that true?
He doesn't have so many moves, but what else? What about the pawn islands? Do you count the islands when you're playing? When you reach an endgame, do you count how many islands opponent has and how many you have? This is very important. How many pawn islands black has here? Three. Pawn island, if you're not familiar with it, it's the pawn that is by itself. So that pawn is one. This two is another island. Another island. Not only he has many pawn islands, he also has double pawns. So basically, this is a very, very bad pawn structure. But it doesn't mean that you're just going to win because he has a bad pawn structure. You still have to play precisely, because he has a bishop. And we know that bishop is stronger when there are pawns on both sides of the board. So what would be the right plan? So, by the way, who can tell me the proper evaluation here? What it would be? Slightly better for white. We know that white is better. Is it slightly better? Is it a big advantage? Or it's winning position? When we evaluate the position, there are three things we can say. Slightly better, big advantage, winning position, or sometimes also equal position. But I think it's pretty clear that this cannot be an equal position, because black has too many weaknesses. So how much you think white is better here? Big advantage.
Second that.
After that?
I second his motion.
Aha. Big advantage. Okay, big advantage is good. What else? Anybody thinks white is winning?
Yeah, I think white's winning.
Aha, white is winning. Technically, white is winning here. Okay? But probably it's right now, if we evaluate, it's a big advantage. We can't just say white is winning yet. We have to still prove that. So you would need to prove that. Okay? And now let's see how we can prove that white is going to win this game. So what will be the first move? You get 1 point for finding the right move here.
Knight c4 check.
king e4. But if you put the king here, where are you planning to enter? So can you enter here? No. Here, no. Here, no. See? You don't really have entry points.
Can't you then check him on c4 and then fork his two back pawns?
Okay, let me go here. You check, I go here. See, I control that. e5 square. So somebody also mentioned knight c4 move. You could do that, but knight is actually well placed here. If you check, you're just gonna, I don't know, come up. So we're not making much progress here.
Knight to c4. I mean, king to c4.
King to c4, correct move, 1 point for that. Activating the king. You always want to activate your piece to the maximum. Now you activate the king, and he's really now stuck with the c5 weakness. He can't just move the king away, you just take the pawn. If he takes your knight, king and pawn endgame, when there are no pieces left, only kings, we call that a king and pawn endgame, because only kings and pawn left. So that's king and pawn endgame. It's going to be basically lost, because now he's going to run out of moves. He comes up, push. And what do we call this position? Suksavang. Okay? He has to go back. You take one. What do we call again? Suksavang, right? And we take another one. So this is just winning. So he cannot take the knight, so he will play bishop here. Okay, we activated the king, but how do we win this position? Very important idea you have to find. Very precise play needed here. Yes?
Play b4 with the attempt of knight a4 to capture the c5 pawn.
Good idea, but do we want to undouble the double pawns?
Well, you end up protecting the a pawn with what is now.
Okay, you're saying this move, correct? I take
Yeah.
you. Okay, I go here.
Yeah, now that'll cross switches.
Because you go here, now I can put the bishop here. Okay, so let's go back. So we don't want to play that yet. Okay? So what do you do next here? Knight a4, correct. Attacking the weak pawn. You give your pawn, it's okay. But when he takes it, not only you take this pawn, now next move you're also going to take this, and he cannot do anything. So he's going to lose 2 pawns. But still you have to convert this advantage. So let's take a look how white converts this advantage. You're up a pawn, but still. Well, this might be an inaccuracy, because now suddenly his king is going to get active. You don't want to do that. So this could be a problem. So we don't want to do that. So take bishop e6, we take this pawn. Now knight a6, he goes bishop e3. Knight goes back to b4. Bishop f4. Knight c2. Anyway, so knight comes back to d4. If we can somehow force this pawn to move, it will be good, because we can check now. It will weaken his light squares. So now we just, next move is push. Now knight comes back to f3, controlling the e5 square, so king cannot enter suddenly. And he also putting pressure here. Bishop f6, and now simply go back. Now he wants to start pushing the c pawn. He played c3, king b5. King d5, c4 check. King e4, king d6. Now, it's a very nice position. We're up a pawn, but still, you don't really have a clear-cut win here. It's not like he's going to resign. You still have to find that final touch here. So what do you do here? We know it's a winning position, but you still have to win the winning position. That final touch now needed.
Knight to h2. Trying to go to f3.
Yeah, that's very nice, but when your knight reaches d5, maybe just goes bishop d8. Yeah, this takes time. This takes time. He finished this game in just 3 moves here. Very effective finish now. Yes. You want to go this way? King d3, you could, but he will probably put his king back to b6. So block it. See, king is active. A knight is also well placed, but where is our advantage in this position? Pass pawn, right? Pass pawns, they're meant to be pushed. So here, you push the pawn. Because we need to deflect this king, because if we can deflect him and penetrate with the king, we will simply collect all the weak pawns. Imagine your king reaches f7, simply collect everything, and then you just push the pawns. g5, h4, easy. So he has to, now he has no moves, he has to go here. Now, knight e5, check. Activating the knight. Can he take the pawn? Can he take this pawn? Yeah?
No, he cannot. I'm saying I see if you want.
Check. Fork. Winning the bishop. Not a good idea. And if he takes, and let's look at the king and pawn endgame. What's the best move here? What's the best move? King d5 or d6? You want to win this pawn. That's the priority. Win this pawn first. And now we go here, and we can simply now give him the c pawn. If he keeps our position, what do we do?